Well, this is where it all began. Chris came to see me one late morning in September in 2017. I had a phone call to say, Gary, there's somebody in the office, they're doing a bit of local research. Could they have 5 minutes of your time? Like any head teacher, it was mad busy. So I came into this room, sat there with Chris, and I said, I'm really sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but you've got 5 minutes. And he just started to tell me the tale of John and Harry.
I remember that meeting so well, Gary, and it's hard to believe really what followed from it, all that's happened in these last 3 years. Of course, the story itself started when I found this tiny photograph of my dad and his troop, and the story that surfaced of Harry Kenwright at the front there was really quite remarkable. And you'll remember well the shock really at the story that followed when I told my dad I'd found Harry's headstone.
So Chris's dad, John, had told Chris for many years about the last few days of the war and a young lad called Harry Kenwright. And Chris started to tell me the tale about Harry, and he found Harry's grave. So excitedly he rang his dad up and said, Dad, I found Harry's grave. And John said, I'm sorry son, no you've not. He said, no Dad, I haven't. I'm stood here, I can see Harry's headstone. He said, no son, I'm sorry you've not. He goes, Dad, I'm telling you, I'm here. He said, son, I know you've not because I buried Harry. And that was a pivotal moment. You could hear a pin drop. I was just, wow. And that's where I said, 1.5 hours later, I was still sat in here with Chris. And that's where the journey began with Chris Bent and Oakwood Avenue.
So we first met Chris back in October 2017 with our Year 5 children in the hall. He initially began to talk about his story of his dad, John, and immediately we were hooked within seconds, and it was definitely the right thing to do that Chris came in to talk to the children about his dad's experiences during the war and the sad burial of his friend Harry. The story was fascinating and the children were hooked straight away. Within such a short space of time, Chris's face became a familiar one along our corridor, and he soon became a part of the Oakey family.
The Harry and John story makes me feel really lucky because I couldn't imagine going through what they went through in the war, and John having to bury his best friend and that. But it's happy in the end because John went on to have a son who grew up and helped us with our history.
When we were learning about the story about World War II, I got really upset in hearing about all the soldiers that lost their lives. Harry Kenwright, John Bent, and my great-great-granddad, Robert Hutchinson. Listening to all these stories of Harry Kenwright and John Bent has really fascinated me, as I could sit there for hours and just listen to them over and over again. I can't believe that John had to bury his friend Harry after fighting for this world. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Captain Robbie Wilmot. I'm the Assistant Regimental Adjutant of the Irish Guards based in our headquarters in central London. Chris Bent, who many of you will know, got in touch with me recently and asked if I could do this short video message to highlight the relationship between our regiment, the Irish Guards, and Oakwood Primary School. I suppose the story came about firstly when Chris got in touch with me 3 or 4 years ago to explain that he was doing a project involving the school simply because his father, John Bent, who had served in this regiment, had went to the school, and there was a very interesting story to tell about his link to the school and the regiment. Sadly, I suppose the worst part about that story was that another member of the school, Harry Kenwright, his good friend, had been killed during that part of the war, and John and his friends had to lay him to rest in a grave that they had made for him during the operation. So that really brought to light some of the horrific stories that comes out of war, but I suppose the good thing to come from it was the fact that the relationship between the school and the regiment has been forged as part of that story. So the first visit that I made involving the school was at the memorial service at the Padgate cenotaph back in November 2017. Now, members of Oakwood School had played a leading role in part of that whole event, which Chris had set up, and very thankfully at the time we were joined on that day by John Bent, who has since sadly passed away, but John was with us on that occasion, and a very moving ceremony took place whereby John laid a wreath at the cenotaph. So that, I suppose, was the first link that I had experienced with Oakwood Primary School.
So I walked into Oakwood Avenue to teach the Year 5 children the normal keyboard project, and was greeted by Mrs. Riley, who was just so excited about the children's learning that day. They had learned all about the Warrington bombing, all about the war. They'd gone over to the Peace Centre and had met Wendy and Colin Parry. And Mrs. Riley wanted them to continue the learning of that day, so we basically looked at buzzwords. What had they learnt? How would they describe the learning? And what were their emotions that day? And we basically took a song that they'd already learnt, which was In the Arms of an Angel, and each year group came up with a verse, and together we came up with the chorus as well. And we used the words of their learning to make the Oakwood Avenue song In the Arms of an Angel. It was such a memorable day because of the excitement and the way the children just enthused about all the learning that day. And the song just became so meaningful and so memorable, and the lyrics that we used were so powerful. And they became the remembrance song, and it was performed by the children at Padgate Cenotaph, and it was performed when Oakwood Avenue won the award, the Warrington Guardian Awards, and it was performed, sadly but poignantly, at John Bent's funeral.
I really like how Fran taught us how to sing and stuff, because it was like really good, because it just made it all better and stuff, because
she's got such a powerful voice. It made me feel like it was just really special. That's what just made it better. Stuff for the day. Plaques which represent Harry Kenwright and John Ben. We've been learning a lot about them and it's been fantastic. It still feels like they are here.
Learning about World War II and peace in school has been a memorable subject. Lucky for us, we had fans create a lovely song for us to perform at the Peace Centre, and that was a very nice thing to do.
Experience, and it was a fantastic service to sing at the cenotaph of Fry. It's great how the Irish Guards and John came to watch as well. It must have made John feel really happy.
The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Well done, boys and girls, that was lovely. We were fortunate enough in December 2017 to meet Chris's dad, John. Such an amazing experience. He came into school, into our hall to meet all of the Year 5 children, where he did a fantastic Q&A session with them. The children were mesmerised by John and the stories that he had to tell and share about his time in the war, and then obviously leading on to how he had to bury Harry. It was silent in the hall, the children were so respectful, and it was just such an experience that I don't think it's one they'll ever forget. On hearing John's story all about Harry, the children just couldn't believe it. The questions they asked were so sensitive but so respectful as well, and they just loved hearing John answering those questions. It made their learning real, alive and so meaningful. Both Chris and John have had a huge impact here in Oakwood, and for the learning that goes on about war and about peace and the topic of history for our children, and one that will never be forgotten and hopefully will continue. Little did we realise back in October 2017 what an impact John, Harry and Chris would have upon our school, and we look forward to many more meetings with Chris.
Scars actually in the Easter, so it was in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they came into the camp and they came knocking on doors. Oh, I can feel as you can go now, Scars. And we just told them, you want to sneak, go away.
Can we just say, on behalf of all the children, it's absolutely wonderful that you've been able to come in today and talk to the children, and it's been great meeting your son and all the things that have happened to Oakwood since your conversation with me.
That is, it's just the whole thing has been an absolute honour for us, and a privilege. And last week we wrote a newsletter, a special one just to our parents, to explain about just what it has meant to our school this year with Remembrance Sunday. So I'll give you a copy of that on the way out. But it's, for me, it's just been the curriculum brought to light. I mean, a year and a bit ago we're like, how do we bring the war to life for children, to make it real and not glorify it in any way? And I think hearing the story of Harry Kenwright and your dad and yourself, John, has just been, it's been incredible for us. It's been really, really humbling. So thank you very much, and thank you. It's just been amazing.
Thank
That John came to our school made the whole experience and history real and a lot better.
Sadly, in April 2018, John Bent passed away. School had the great honour and privilege to sing In the Arms of an Angel at his funeral, and we hope that this brought some comfort to Chris and his family.
award of the evening is for Class / Team of the Year, sponsored by Warrington Market. To present the award, please welcome to the stage Warrington Market Operations Manager Paul Blaney. This year's winning team are worthy recipients due to their efforts in helping to remember the life of a Warrington war hero. In 1945, a former Oakwood Avenue pupil serving with the Irish Guards during the Second World War was killed soon after crossing the border into Germany in his Sherman tank. His fellow soldier, John Bent, was faced with the onerous task of burying him in the heat of battle. While Harry's name appears on the war memorial in Padgate, local Year 5 school children were so moved by his story they wanted to go further in helping to keep his memory alive. With the help of John Bent and his son Chris, they embarked on a remarkable journey of remembrance. Hours of research and learning were undertaken, culminating in a special memorial service for Harry where the pupils performed an emotional rendition of In the Arms of an Angel. As a result of all their efforts, the children have now been invited to London, next year I understand, to meet the Irish Guards and watch the changing of the Guards from inside the gates of Buckingham Palace. Sadly, John died earlier this year, and as a fitting celebration of his life, the children again performed In the Arms of an Angel at his funeral, an incredibly touching moment for his family. A memorial bench is now installed at the school in memory of John and Harry. While we will never know exactly what happened on that fateful day in 1945, thanks to the efforts of those local pupils, Harry and John will always be remembered as heroes. In recognition of that work done by those local pupils, our team of the year is Year 5 Oakwood Avenue School.
So we started off, I think, listening to the band getting prepared, ready to conduct the normal changing of the Queen's Guard, which on that particular day the Irish Guards were taking part in. So we were able to watch the band warming up before they went on the parade itself. We watched the new guard forming up in Wellington Barracks and then marching out across the road to Buckingham Palace, which was directly opposite the barracks. Whilst they marched across the road, we then went and took part in some drill lessons by one of my warrant officers who taught some of the pupils how to salute, which was interesting and fun. We then went and had a memorial service ourselves at the Field of Remembrance in the beside the Guards Chapel, and then we had a visit around the Guards Chapel before going for lunch back in our main office. And I think during lunch, if I recall correctly, there was a helicopter landed which was part of the royal flight, which would normally have a member of the royal family on board, but on that particular occasion, whilst we watched out the window, there were no members of the royal family who were being flown into London on that particular day.
For those who've got a map, you can see the main gates that they're coming through. So you can't see what just looks one.
My shadow's ranging at you. Every soldier who's buried in this cemetery is listed in this book. And it's all alphabetical. So, see if you can spot Harry.
We know where Harry is.
Can anybody find Harry? Yeah, very top there.
One side, the second vehicle.
And can you see that it says where the grave is?
We found this.
Okay, so So I think you've got a copy of the map, but if you didn't, it's at the front of this book. And we're standing here, and we can see there's a cross here. And just before it, there's the area of plot 13. And B, the 25 at the bottom, he's going to be up here. So what we're going to do now, we're going to walk this way, so I'm going to show you the cross of sacrifice. And there's another monument here, and then the really emotional thing, we'll see Harry as we come round here.
Going to Rheinberg Cemetery and filming with my best pal Jeff was an incredibly moving moment, one I'll never ever forget. And it was fantastic being over there, and obviously seeing the grave of my dad's mate and knowing how everyone at school was so inspired by the story. It was just a day of all days. But it's really strange, actually, when we were over there, Jeff and myself both said that we missed being in school. We kind of wanted to be everywhere. We were lucky to be at the cemetery, but we wanted to be at school to experience what was going on there. So the films and the clips from the classroom are really, really special to me. And I think just listening to the children, I've listened to them so many times, is just fantastic. You can just hear the energy and the buzz and the enthusiasm. It is really, really obvious what this has all meant to them. So I have really, really adored watching these clips.
You can just see 13B here.
That's actually on the internet, Chris, that picture. That picture is actually
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So Harry's Row's actually
Wow.
online.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't until this morning.
Right. So I think this is grade 13B1.
Yeah.
So Harry's going to be 20 down here. And Jess just going to walk down the line. Just notice the lovely flowers by the graves. I'll tell you when we get to the Irish Guards.
All the Irish Guards buried together.
Pretty much.
17 there. 18.
Right, here we go. So there's Ed Harrison. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Like, what date did he die?
19. 92nd of September.
Now who else died on the 2nd of April?
That's the same day as
Harry. And the day after my birthday.
Exactly. If we just move on, the next Irish Guard, J.G. Stacey.
That's not
2nd of April. D. Eccleston, not at the 2nd of April. Harry wasn't the only one that day. Look at the flowers. This is Harry. This is our Harry from Oakwood Avenue. And you know, he had 4 brothers and 1 sister, and everyone went to Oakwood Avenue. And at the bottom of the gravestone are the words that his mum put on the grave. Can you see that? Oh, isn't that sad? Okay, you know, there's hardly any room to put this. There's so many lovely flowers. says, I never ever forgot you, Harry, from your good pal through those terrible times. John Bent, Quis Separabit. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
So when we were at Rheinberg Cemetery, it was an absolutely baking hot day, and all the grass and everything was all parched around it. And we got there and we didn't know whether we were going to be able to Skype or FaceTime and whether the technology or anything was going to work. But just before that, Chris and I had gone and had a recce of everything to just make sure that we knew where everything was going to be. So we'd already walked around the cemetery once. Then we got the links to work, so we actually filmed it, I think, for year 5, and so I was walking quite slowly with this camera, trying to hold it as steady as possible. There was no technology of anti-shake or anything on the camera, it was just me holding it up. So then we filmed everything for the school, and by that time I'd been holding the camera out at arm's length. My arms were actually beginning to hurt a bit. So then Gary said, oh well, can you just do it again for the next class please? Year 6 will come in and watch it as well. So we did it all again, and then at the end of it all, Chris said, oh, we haven't actually got any of this on tape, so can we film it all again? So through all of this filming and the concentration of actually holding the camera still, and all that I could see was a little postage stamp in the corner of the screen, trying to watch it all with this brilliant sunshine. So I couldn't hardly see anything at all. But it was still a good laugh.
So this is the bend where Harry's tank, and as they do here, just round to where you can see a green tank, ironically a green tank, all the way up there were German tanks, the railway line, there were a run of Panzer tanks pointing their guns at Harry, and Harry saw that and knew immediately he was in danger. And the story that Bill Eager, who survived from the tank, is that as soon as the gun turret stopped, got to this position, and George, the driver, could see again, all he could see was this spinning ball, looked like a cotton wool ball coming at them. Well, they knew that was a shell. So it hit the tank, which is where Harry and everyone had to get out very quickly. So we pinned down, so again, looking at this bend is where Harry's tank was. So picture here, sorry about the noise. Picture here, Harry's tank's about here. We know that George, the driver, jumped out of the tank and ran to the left. These buildings weren't here. He's run down shrubland to the left, running for his life. We know that Hetherington and Eager jumped out to the right. The ditch down here, which was a sewage ditch, so it was horrible and smelly. And because it was a ditch, they were okay. They survived. The firing went over their heads. Harry went out of the tank back to start down this road. And this is the horrible bits of the story that we know that there's people who saw this. My dad didn't, I'm really glad to say John didn't. But they said it looked like Harry had been thrown the whole length of this road back towards the station, which is such a vivid picture of, you know, his last moments. The thing I wanted to say on that is that he clearly wouldn't have known he was hit, which is good to know he didn't suffer. But the horrors of warfare.
I mean, who knows, but gosh, I could be standing on the ground where Harry was buried. We're certainly very, very near where Harry was, so having seen him at the cemetery in Rheinberg, it's really quite something to see him buried there, but actually know he was initially buried here as well.
So we had a full class of, well, we actually had a full year group of year 6 children, later followed by year 5 children. We had them all sat in one classroom, and we managed to get a FaceTime with Chris while he was live at the cemetery. It was a very poignant moment for me as a teacher, kind of sat at the back and just seeing the children and how engaged they were, with the whole story. They'd obviously done a lot of lead up to it, where they'd looked at the journey that the men had taken, how they'd lost their lives, and everything else. And it was just so poignant just to see the children sat in absolute silence, their gaze just fixated on Chris, as he again retold the story and took us on a kind of tour. I describe it as around the cemetery. Chris was fantastic because he didn't just go straight to the grave of Harry, or he kind of took us on a tour and explained what all the different features of the cemetery were, and told us stories about particular soldiers who lost their life during that time. For me, it was just spellbinding, really. I could have sat there all afternoon and watched. I think most of the children could have done as well. I just think these opportunities for children at our school, they just wouldn't get that type of opportunity, even for us as teachers. We find it difficult to produce those situations for them and to give them those opportunities. So to have Chris, such a knowledgeable man, and so passionate about what he's doing, it's just been absolutely fantastic for our children to get that opportunity, and one that I hope that Chris continues to do for us, because I really can't thank him enough, really, for what he gives our children. So it's that's what I'd say, really. That's my big lasting memory, is just seeing how engaged the children were that day, and to keep almost 90 children absolutely spellbound when you're not even live in the classroom. It's a very, very special talent, and obviously one that Chris possesses.
remember Harry Kenwright and John Bend and how the war must have been for them.
Gilbert Henry Kenwright, known to us all as Harry, was born in Padgate on the 22nd of September 1919. The Kenwrights lived at 20th King Street, Padgate. When Harry started at our school on the 27th of August 1928, during 1940, Harry joined the Irish Guards and set off to Normandy in June 1944 as a sergeant commanding a Sherman Firefly tank. Tragically, on the 2nd of April 1945, Harry's tank was hit by a shell and he was killed. At the end of the war, Harry's grave was moved to the cemetery at Rhindsburg. We would like to thank Chris and John Bent for bringing Harry's story to light so that Oakwood Avenue can commemorate these two heroes for our school.
John was there on that day, and John has shared that moment with us about when his friend fell and how he buried him and how it was so important to not forget. And sadly, John died early this year. But he is part of our school. We will never forget John. John went to war just like the veterans. He did come back. He didn't pay the ultimate sacrifice then, but he did become part of our community, our school community. And with thanks to Chris, we will never forget John. But through you, we will never forget Harry. We'll never forget all the others, and we're just about to start to learn about Robert Hutchinson. And Robert's daughter is with us today, and that means an awful lot to us. It's a very special moment, and I'm sure that Christchurch will be finding more and more information out about the pupils who need to attend your school. So this is not the end. The memories don't stop today. We'll continue to do the work, we'll continue to respect those fallen soldiers, and we'll continue to thank them because we don't know. They made the ultimate sacrifice so we can have the life we've got today. We simply don't know what it would have been like if they hadn't have done that. And that's why it's so important to remember. So, for everybody who turned up today, can we have one final round of applause, please? Thank you.
Exactly that. And what school did they go to? Go for it. Exactly, and you should take great pride in that, guys, because when I went to school, I never had something like this, all right? And it means a hell of a lot to your serving soldiers. That's why we're here today, as well as the ones that fought during the Great War all them years ago. Okay, this year's been a special year. Why was that? Someone different. Go for it.
It's been 100 years.
100 years, exactly. 100 years since the Great War. Okay, and we need to think about the previous Great War, as well as obviously the wars that have happened, Afghan, Iraq. Okay, we've lost friends during war as well, and we remember them. But if you carry that tradition on, when you get older, your kids, your grandkids will remember the same thing, and it can only be good Catholic truths. Happy days. Big thumbs up, smile. Gleaming.
Ready? I go. 1, 2, 3.
Do that one more time. Go on. 1, 2, 3.
Some more special memories were made when the Irish Guards actually came to visit us here at Oakwood Avenue. The first time they came was quite a formal event, and they actually unveiled our really special wall, which is a wall of the Oakwood Avenue's fallen. So that was really lovely and quite moving. On it you can see we've got our special heroes. We've got Harry Kenwright here, and John Bent and Robert Hutchinson, amongst all of the other fantastic heroes that we've got. The second time that we had a visit was quite an unusual one actually, because they brought along their mascot dog. He is a huge dog, and it was the first time we actually had a dog in the staff room. The children were really excited to meet him, and when we actually let him out on the playground, he could run really fast. It was a really special day for us, and one which will go down in our memories for a long, long time.
In May 2019, Year 6 were on a school trip in London. We knew that just recently the plaque commemorating the lives of Harry and John was now proudly on display in the Guards Chapel. Chris rang Captain Wilmot and managed to arrange a visit for what he thought was a few children. Imagine the shock of Regimental Quartermaster Chris O'Neill when we turned up with 70 Year 6 children. However, in the true accommodating style of the Irish Guards, we were able to watch the changing of the Guards, and more significantly, we were able to see the plaque in its commemorative home. This was extremely touching and something that none of us will forget.
He then went on to explain the whole length of the Warrington area
Through Chris, we've had a wealth of enriching experiences for our children. One of these experiences was our second invitation from Captain Wilmot, Assistant Regimental Adjutant of the Irish Guards. He invited 12 children and 5 adults to Warrington Barracks, and it really was an incredible experience, and one which we still talk about today. With the Regimental Quartermaster, Chris O'Neill, we had a tour of the barracks, we witnessed the changing of the Guards ceremony, as well as watching the Guards march back in from Buckingham Palace. The children had a great feast in one of the rooms in the barracks. They said they felt like royalty because they were treated like VIPs. They also had the opportunity to try on some Irish Guard tunics and bearskins, and that was a lot of fun for both the children and the staff. For me, 2 memories in particular have stayed with me. One was when the children laid a wreath on the Flanders Field Memorial Garden inside the barracks, and we all recited Flanders Field. Their voices in unison were just incredible. And the other memory was when we entered the Guards Chapel, and the children, as well as Chris, saw Harry and John's plaque for the first time. So that was a really, really special moment, and everything just fell silent, and it was as if there was a respectful stillness in the whole chapel. And this was further captured by the children singing In the Arms of an Angel with Fran whilst inside the chapel. This was heard by other special guests who were in there at the time, and everyone just stood still and listened. So that was our incredible experience at Warrington Barracks.
My favourite memory of the visit of Oakwood Avenue School to the Irish Guards headquarters is as part of the team, after they'd all been out to see the soldiers and tried the clothes on, and they came back and sat around that lovely table with all the food, having a picnic in that beautiful room, steeped in Irish Guards history, being able to talk about what they'd done, what they saw, and their genuine enthusiasm was just a joy to see. They were just so excited about being in that room and reminiscing about all their memories, and for me that is just the favourite part of my day. Yeah.
Left foot forward, right arm. Yeah, that's it. Get into that position. If you're unsure, just watch me copy me, and I'll listen to you. Yeah. Just copy me. Right, now put your right foot forward, and your left arm. Yeah. Left foot. So switch over. To the right then. So left foot. Now left foot forward, right arm. So all you're going to do now is Marks go like that. You're going to go off on your left. When I say left, put your left foot forward. When I say right, right foot forward. Ready? Ready? Left, right, 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 left, right. Stand still there. Stand still. We've got to put 6 steps in the centre here. Right, then lift the toes up, toes back up again. No pressure. Taking videos. Oh, this side was there. That's why they're thinking.
No, they're not. I'm thinking what
They
they're
are,
doing.
because they don't get to be here watching, do they? All you've got to do now to earn being in here is march. Ready? Let's go, face up, Adam. Left, right, 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 left. Right, right, you're all better. Right, stand still. You're too good. You're embarrassing that guard. Come on, we'll just go on the path and walk down.
As well, miss, when you look at the Union flags, Union Jack flags on each side, they were all taken into battle to their original flags. Right. Some were taken to the Battle of Waterloo as well. So the original flags that were taken out.
Step forward one, and we'll see what we're looking for. Difficult, isn't it? And you can see what it might look for, and then we're going to compare that. That's what I'm looking for. So if you walk on time, if you walk along down there and take a seat as you've looked. Yeah, just let me have a look and go past on to see if we get someone look. Once you're happy to see it.
When we were there, the Irish Guards took us on a tour around there. We even got to sing Fran's song in the church. When we were in the church, we had to find Harry's plaque. Last year, I was very fortunate to go to London to see the barracks of the Irish Guards. When we went in the church, I saw Harry Kenwright's plaque. It was very emotional and it just made me feel upset seeing it. Chris, it was very fun because we visited the Irish Guards. Not only did we go to the barracks, but we went sang at the church and found Harry's plaque.
Heartbreak
than that one. That's it. I'm gonna light your candle on.
This is for John. This is for Harry.
So we now have ownership. Harry, John, all of the Oakwood fallen, they're ours now. We feel, especially with Harry and with John, we definitely know them. They're not just names on a board, they're people. And we've learnt about the fallen, but equally with our fantastic relationship with the Irish Guards, we can see how much they value their current soldiers and their soldiers who have sadly fallen. So this relationship started, and I hope it continues for many, many years, and we find out more about Oakwood's fallen and more respect for soldiers for today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Wow, you're right. Here, let's get out to the shadow. Here's our Harry. Oh, here's our Harry. This is my dad's friend and Oakwood Avenue's Harry. How amazing is this for us to be sharing this together today? So you can probably spot your names on that. Yeah, and there's Harry. Oh, God bless you, Harry. So I'm now going to leave that by Harry's grave. Oh, how beautiful. And I hope you've all appreciated what today's about, that we are really lucky to have done this, because the chances of doing something like this and being able to pay our respects and be at Harry's grave, very few and far between. So how lucky to be able to do it today, and I hope you'll never ever forget it. And remember, when you're next in the playground, what I said, if you just have a sit on the bench for a few seconds and just tap John and Harry and remember the two brave men, one who came back from war, my dad, and his friend Harry came to our school and didn't, and we'll always, always remember them. So thank you for being so amazing Monday and today around all this story, and I look forward to seeing when we get back to the UK. Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Chris. See you soon when you're back.
Yeah, take care everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye then. Bye.
Chris Ben Skyped us. He showed us the journey that John Bent and Harry Kenwright would have taken as soldiers, where he ended up at Rheinberg Cemetery and he laid one of Oakwood's wreaths. This was like an amazing experience to watch.
That I learned was when Chris Skyped us from Germany and seeing the places where they fought. It was really hard to imagine how that life would have been back then. When we were singing to Chris, it made me feel like you could embrace your feelings to Chris and all the fallen soldiers. remembrance service was actually a really good experience at Padgate, and I really liked it because when I was singing, I felt like they could have been watching us, so like could have been watching me, so I felt kind of special inside really about it.
Singing at the same time made me very emotional, but all the words had very special meanings in, and would probably make everybody happy.
Chris went to Rhineberg and he Skyped the children of Oakwood Avenue and sent me the video. Beautiful moment where he showed them the grave of Harry Kenwright. After watching the playback of the video 3 times, there was just some obvious words from that came out, which again were very powerful, and it was from the grave, and it was from the lyrics, the words that Harry's mum wrote on the grave, which became the lyrics. And the song was really meaningful again to Oakwood Avenue because of all the learning with Harry. And Last Thoughts Unknown was the new song, which is Harry's song.
So my main reason for doing this video is to encourage everybody at Oakwood School to continue to maintain the link between the school and our regiment for the future. The history behind that link is fascinating. Sadly, as I mentioned earlier, John is no longer with us to tell his story in person anymore, but I'm sure his son Chris will manage to do so on his behalf to future students, pupils coming through the school.
We love the Irish Guards!
The Irish Guards!
We love the Irish Guards!
We love the Irish Guards!
We love the Irish Guards!
Love the Irish Guards!
Irish Guards!
We love the Irish Guards!
It's such a special story, the Harry and John story, and it's been fantastic to be involved in everything that's been going on over the last 3 years. The school have been just mind-blowing, just amazing, And I've been so lucky, blessed really, to have met so many teachers and see you all in action. You are genuinely brilliant at what you do. You probably don't know how good you are and how lucky the children are. It's been inspirational for me to watch you and be a part of that. And I can say I am genuinely honoured to be classed as a part of the Oakey family. Likewise, the Irish Guards have been incredible too. Robbie Wilmot in particular, can't thank enough, and everyone else involved. The Guards have really bought into all of this, and I think their connect with the school is something incredibly moving and incredibly touching. Fran also has to have a big mention here at the end. I think it's pretty obvious in the film that music is a really key thing in inspiring the children, and Fran has provided that inspiration in abundance. She is magnificent with the children, and hearing them talk after they've had a session with her, it just makes my day. So it is a big thanks to everyone, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I guess the best way to really finish this would have been if I could have had John to have finished saying thanks, thank you so much. You know, and maybe with a little bit of magic I can make that happen.
Right, and thank you so very much.
Do you know, the school and the Irish Guards have done you and Harry so proud. And I'd like to think, after all these years, since that fateful day in 1945, that maybe you're together again. That maybe you really did meet again. Over to you, Fran.